In today's video, we're going to dive into the fascinating life story of Noah and the Ark, a biblical tale that's full of intrigue and inspiration. So before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Noah's story is one of the most well-known and enduring tales in the Bible. Found in the book of Genesis, it's a story of faith, obedience, and divine judgment, but also one of mercy, renewal, and the unbreakable bond between humanity and God. Across centuries, Noah's Ark has captured the imagination of people around the world, inspiring art, literature, and even scientific exploration. Let's take a journey back in time to explore this powerful story and the lessons it continues to teach us today. A world in chaos. Before Noah entered the scene, the world had descended into moral corruption. According to Genesis, humanity had turned away from God, indulging in wickedness and violence. The once beautiful creation had become tainted, and God, in his sorrow, decided that a fresh start was necessary. The decision was not made in anger, but rather in deep grief over the way his creation had turned away from righteousness. Yet, in the midst of the world's corruption, there was one man who stood apart: Noah. Described as a righteous and blameless man who walked faithfully with God, Noah was different from those around him. His faith and integrity made him the ideal person to carry out God's plan for renewal. The divine command: God spoke to Noah and gave him an extraordinary task. He was to build an ark, a massive wooden vessel, because a great flood was coming to cleanse the earth. The command must have seemed overwhelming. Imagine being asked to build an enormous ship with no prior knowledge of shipbuilding, in a time when rain was not a common occurrence. Yet Noah did not hesitate. He trusted God completely and set to work. The instructions for the ark were detailed. God commanded it to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, essentially the size of a modern cargo ship. It was to be made of gopher wood, with rooms, a roof, and a door on its side. Noah followed every instruction precisely, demonstrating his unwavering faith. As Noah and his family worked on the ark, one can only imagine the ridicule they faced from their neighbors. After all, they were building a gigantic boat on dry land with no sign of impending catastrophe. But Noah remained steadfast. His faith was not shaken by mockery or doubt. He trusted in God's plan even when it didn't make sense to others. The gathering of the animals. Once the ark was completed, God commanded Noah to bring two of every kind of living creature, male and female, onto the ark to preserve their species. For some animals, 7 pairs were taken. This ensured the survival of life after the flood receded. This part of the story has long fascinated people. How did Noah gather all these animals? How did they all fit? The Bible does not provide intricate details, but it tells us that God guided the animals to Noah, and they entered the ark in obedience to his divine plan. Alongside the animals, Noah brought provisions, food for his family, and for the creatures that would share the ark with them. His obedience was not just in building the ark, but in preparing for the journey ahead. The great flood, when everything was ready, Noah and his wife, along with their 3 sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, entered the ark. Then the rains began. For 40 days and 40 nights, water poured from the heavens, and the fountains of the deep burst open. It was a cataclysmic event unlike anything the world had ever seen. The floodwaters rose, covering even the highest mountains. Every living creature outside the ark perished, and the world was submerged in water. Inside the ark, Noah and his family waited. The storm raged on, but they were safe because they had obeyed God's command. One can only imagine what it must have been like inside that floating refuge, listening to the rain pound against the wood, hearing the sounds of animals, and wondering what the world would look like when the waters receded. After 40 days, the rain stopped, but the earth remained flooded. The ark drifted on the waters for months. Noah sent out a raven and later a dove to see if the land was dry. When the dove finally returned with an olive leaf, it was a sign that life was beginning anew. A new beginning. After a full year in the ark, God instructed Noah to come out. As he and his family stepped onto dry land, they were greeted by a changed world, a world cleansed of its former wickedness. The first thing Noah did was build an altar and offer sacrifices to God in thanksgiving. His gratitude and reverence showed his continued faith, and God, in response, made a covenant with him. God promised never to destroy the earth by flood again, and as a sign of this everlasting promise, he placed a rainbow in the sky. The rainbow was a reminder of God's mercy and faithfulness, a symbol that despite humanity's failures, he would always provide a path to redemption. The legacy of Noah's story is not just about a flood. It is about faith, obedience, and God's relationship with humanity. His unwavering trust in God's word saved him and his family, and through them, life continued on earth. Noah's legacy is seen throughout history, in various cultures and traditions that share similar flood narratives. Even today, people search for evidence of the Ark, and while debates continue, the spiritual message of Noah's story remains unchanged. It teaches us the importance of faith, the power of obedience, and the assurance that God keeps his promises. Just as Noah found favor in God's eyes, we too can seek to live in righteousness, knowing that even in the storm, God provides a refuge. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories. Until next time, take care and stay inspired.